At 52, I thought I'd seen everything my family could throw at me. I was dead wrong. On Christmas morning, when I opened the special gift my 3 adult children gave me with malicious grins, I found a package of adult diapers with a card reading, "For when menopause makes you leak in every sense, Mom." They burst into laughter. My daughter-in-law was filming everything with her phone, whispering, "This is going viral," to my eldest son. My husband just shook his head, as he always did when he didn't want to get involved. In that moment, something inside me shattered completely. It wasn't just the public humiliation or the cruelty disguised as humor. It was the realization that to them I had become a joke, the old cranky woman who deserved to be ridiculed on the most sacred day of the year. While they continued laughing, I smiled calmly and said, "What a creative gift. Thank you." But inside, a decision was being made, a decision that would change everything. Because what they didn't know was that I had some secrets of my own. And if they wanted to play with humiliation, I was about to show them how this game is really played. Sometimes, the most underestimated person in the room is exactly who you should fear. The diaper joke was just the beginning. The real surprise was what I discovered they were planning to do with that video. My name is Margaret. I'm 52 years old. And for 3 decades, I built what I thought was a solid life. Married for 28 years to Robert, an accountant who always prioritized stability above all else. We raised 3 children, David, 26, Sarah, 24, and Michael, 22. All college graduates, all with decent jobs, all living in their own homes. I had always been the backbone of this family. I worked as a nurse for 25 years, caring for patients during the day and my family at night. When my mother-in-law developed Alzheimer's, I was the one who cared for her for 4 years until her death. When Robert went through severe depression after being laid off, I was the one who kept the house running with 2 jobs. When the kids needed money for college, cars, or apartments, it was always, "Mom will figure it out." Our 2-story house in a middle-class neighborhood had always been the center of family gatherings. I cooked for 15 people every Thanksgiving, organized elaborate birthdays, and never, not once, complained publicly. It was my role, I thought. It's what mothers do. But in the last 2 years, something changed. Maybe it was menopause, as they love to mock. Maybe it was the early retirement I had to take due to back problems. Or maybe it was simply the accumulated exhaustion of decades being the person everyone seeks when they need something, but ignores when they want to have fun. My children had developed a cruel pattern. They only visited when they needed something, borrowed money, babysitting for grandchildren, or someone to cook for their parties. During these visits, they made constant jokes about my age, my senior moments, and especially about menopause. "Here comes Mom with her hot flashes," David would say when I complained about the heat. "Watch out, she's in permanent PMS mode," Sarah would comment when I expressed any opinion. Robert, my husband, had become a passive spectator of his own life. After the depression, he was never the same. He spent his days watching TV and avoiding conflicts. When I tried to talk about the children's behavior, he would sigh and say, "They're young, Maggie. Don't take it so seriously." But I did take it seriously. Every joke, every sarcastic comment, every time they rolled their eyes when I spoke. I was becoming invisible in my own family, relevant only as a service provider. What they didn't know, what nobody knew, was about the inheritance. 6 months earlier, my Aunt Eleanor, an eccentric woman who never married and with whom I maintained regular correspondence, had passed away. She left me her entire estate, a house in Martha's Vineyard valued at $1.2 million, plus $800,000 in investments. I hadn't told anyone, not even Robert. Something told me to keep this information to myself. I had planned to use this money to secure my children's and grandchildren's future. I had dreamed of paying off their mortgages, creating educational funds for the grandkids, maybe even buying a vacation home where the whole family could gather. But that Christmas morning, looking at the diapers and hearing their cruel laughter, I realized that maybe I was being naive about who my family really was. The house felt different that day. The same walls that had witnessed birthday parties, homework sessions, and family dinners now seemed to echo with mockery. I looked around at the Christmas decorations I had spent weeks putting up, the elaborate breakfast I had prepared since 5 a.m., the carefully wrapped gifts under the tree, all for people who saw me as entertainment. As I held those diapers in my hands, I made a mental note to call my lawyer first thing after the holidays. But everything started to change when Sarah married Derek 2 years ago. Derek was the type of man who thought he was funnier than he actually was. He brought a toxic dynamic to our family, always poking and provoking, especially me. "Mother-in-law, are you really getting forgetful, or is it just my imagination?" he would say in front of everyone. Sarah would laugh along as if it were the funniest thing in the world. It was Derek who started the menopause jokes. During a family dinner on my 51st birthday, when I mentioned I was feeling hot, he shouted, "Hot flash alert! Everyone get away from the hormonal bomb!" The entire table erupted in laughter. Even Robert chuckled. That night, I heard Sarah and Derek in the guest room, talking loudly enough for me to hear. "Your mom is getting so weird," Derek said. "Maybe we should start recording some of this stuff. The internet loves crazy mother-in-law content." Sarah giggled. "Oh my God, yes, she'd probably go viral." The seed was planted that night. Over the following months, I noticed them paying more attention to my moments. When I forgot where I put my reading glasses, Derek would dramatically announce, "Ladies and gentlemen, the beginning of the end." When I asked them to repeat something because the TV was too loud, Sarah would exchange meaningful looks with her brothers and whisper, "Mom's hearing is going too." David, my eldest, started bringing his girlfriend Jessica to every family gathering. Jessica was a social media influencer with 50,000 followers, always looking for authentic content. She began suggesting we film funny family moments and would position her phone strategically during our dinners. Michael, my youngest, was the one who hurt me most. He had always been my sensitive child, the one who would come to me with his problems. But Derek's influence was strong, and soon Michael was making jokes about my senior moments too. "Mom, you told us that story 3 times already," he would say with exaggerated patience, even when I hadn't. The breaking point came 3 weeks before Christmas. I was hosting Thanksgiving, as always, cooking for 14 people. I had been in the kitchen since 4 a.m., preparing turkey, stuffing, 3 different pies, and all the sides. My back was killing me, but I pushed through. During dinner, I mentioned that I was considering simplifying Christmas this year. Maybe just doing a nice dinner instead of the elaborate celebration with gifts for everyone. The reaction was immediate and brutal. "Oh no, Mom's having another one of her episodes," Sarah said, looking directly at Derek's phone camera. "She always gets dramatic around the holidays." "Maybe it's time to consider assisted living," Derek added with a smirk. "I hear they have great Christmas programs for seniors." David joined in. "We should probably start taking over the family traditions. Mom's clearly overwhelmed." I stood there, holding a serving spoon, watching my children perform for the camera. They weren't just mocking me anymore. They were building a narrative where I was the declining matriarch who needed to be managed, controlled, and eventually replaced. That night, after everyone left, and I was cleaning up alone, as always, I found Derek's phone on the counter. He had forgotten it in his rush to leave. The screen was still unlocked. What I saw made my blood run cold. There was a group chat called Operation Grandma with all 3 of my children and their partners. Months of messages planning how to document my decline. Screenshots of potential nursing homes. Discussions about how to gently transition Mom out of hosting duties. And worst of all, a detailed plan for Christmas morning. The diaper gift wasn't spontaneous cruelty. It was a calculated humiliation designed to be filmed and shared. Derek had written, "This will be perfect for the compilation video. Crazy MIL Christmas meltdown. Will get millions of views." Sarah had responded, "Should we set up multiple camera angles?" Michael had added, "Make sure to get her face when she opens it. The shock will be priceless." I screenshot everything and sent it to my own phone before deleting the evidence. Then I placed Derek's phone back exactly where I found it. As I finished cleaning the kitchen at 2 a.m., I wasn't just angry anymore. I was strategic. They wanted to document my decline. perfect. I would give them something truly worth filming. The next 3 weeks were a masterclass in acting. I played the role they expected perfectly. The slightly confused, increasingly fragile mother who was losing her grip. I started forgetting conversations we'd had, asking them to repeat things multiple times. I would pause mid-sentence, looking confused, then shake my head and say, "Sorry, where was I?" I could see them exchanging excited glances, probably thinking about how great this would look on camera. Derek became bolder, openly filming our interactions. "Just capturing family memories," he would say, with that sickening smile. I played along, sometimes waving awkwardly at the camera, sometimes appearing startled by it. Perfect content for their cruel compilation. During this time, I was busy behind the scenes. I met with my lawyer, Patricia, a sharp woman in her 60s who had handled my aunt's estate. "I want to make some changes to my will," I told her. "Significant changes." Patricia raised an eyebrow as I outlined my new plans. "Are you sure about this, Margaret? This is quite drastic." "I've never been more sure of anything in my life," I replied, sliding the screenshots across her desk. "I want everything documented and ironclad." I also contacted a private investigator to dig deeper into my children's finances. What I discovered was enlightening. David was 3 months behind on his mortgage. Sarah and Derek had maxed out 4 credit cards funding their lifestyle. Michael had dropped out of his master's program due to unpaid tuition, but hadn't told anyone. They weren't just planning to humiliate me for entertainment. They were counting on my eventual inheritance to solve their problems. The week before Christmas, Sarah called with fake concern in her voice. "Mom, we're all worried about you. You seem so scattered lately. Maybe you should see a doctor." "Oh, honey, I'm fine," I replied, adding a slight tremor to my voice. "Just getting older, I suppose." "Well, we want Christmas to be special this year, really memorable. Derek has some great ideas for making it unforgettable." I bet he did. 2 days before Christmas, I received a call from Jessica, David's influencer girlfriend. "Mrs. Thompson, I hope you don't mind, but I'd love to document your family Christmas tradition for my followers. It would be so authentic and heartwarming." "Of course, dear," I said sweetly. I love being on camera. The irony was delicious. Christmas Eve, I spent the entire day cooking and preparing, just as I had for decades. But this time, I was also setting up my own recording devices. Small, discreet cameras that Patricia's tech-savvy nephew had helped me install. If they wanted to film my humiliation, I wanted to capture their cruelty in high definition. That evening, as I wrapped the last presents, including thoughtful, expensive gifts for each of them because I'm not cruel, I felt a strange sense of peace. Tomorrow would be the last Christmas I would ever spend feeling small and diminished in my own home. I called Patricia one final time. "Everything is ready for tomorrow," I told her. "The new will is signed and witnessed," she confirmed. "The other documents are prepared. Are you absolutely certain you want to go through with this?" I looked around my beautifully decorated living room at the stockings I had hung with care, at the tree I had spent hours decorating. They made their choice when they decided to turn my pain into their entertainment, I said. "Tomorrow they'll learn that actions have consequences." That night, I barely slept. Not from anxiety, but from anticipation. For the first time in years, I felt powerful. I felt in control. Christmas morning was about to become very interesting indeed. As I lay in bed, listening to Robert's peaceful snoring, I smiled in the darkness. My children thought they were so clever, so modern with their phones and their social media plans. But they had forgotten something important. Their mother had been fighting battles and solving problems long before they were born. Tomorrow, they would remember exactly who Margaret Thompson really was. Christmas morning arrived with fresh snow and the sound of cars pulling into my driveway. I had been awake since 5 a.m., putting the finishing touches on breakfast and making sure my hidden cameras were positioned perfectly. They arrived like a film crew. Derek carried a professional-looking camera. Jessica had her ring light and phone tripod. And even Michael brought his laptop to upload content in real time. My children's excitement was palpable, not for Christmas, but for the show they were about to create. Morning, Mom, Sarah chirped, kissing my cheek while Derek positioned himself for the best angle. Ready for a wonderful Christmas? Of course, sweetheart, I replied, playing my part. I'm so excited to see what everyone got each other. We went through the usual routine. Coffee, breakfast, small talk. But I could feel their anticipation building. They kept checking their phones, making sure batteries were charged, adjusting camera angles. Derek even did a few test shots of me serving breakfast, probably for his before footage. Finally, it was time for presents. We gathered in the living room and I noticed they had strategically positioned themselves to capture every angle. Jessica was openly live streaming to her followers. Good morning, beautiful people. We're about to witness some authentic family Christmas magic. The regular gifts came first. Sweaters, books, gift cards, the usual thoughtful exchanges. But I could see them getting restless, waiting for their big moment. Then Sarah stood up with that familiar malicious grin. Mom, we have one more special gift for you. We all chipped in for something we thought you really needed. Derek's camera was rolling. Jessica was zooming in on my face. Michael was recording with his phone from the side angle. Even Robert looked uncomfortable, but he said nothing. Sarah handed me the wrapped package with exaggerated ceremony. We hope you love it as much as we love picking it out. I opened it slowly, playing up the anticipation for their cameras. When I revealed the adult diapers and read the cruel card aloud, their laughter exploded exactly as planned. Derek was practically salivating behind his camera. Jessica was providing live commentary to her audience, and my children were performing their cruelty with Oscar-worthy enthusiasm. Oh my, I said, holding up the diapers with a confused smile. These are interesting. Therefore, when menopause makes you leak everywhere, Mom, David called out, barely containing his glee. Derek thought of it. We figured you needed them after all those senior moments lately, Sarah added, winking at the camera. I sat there for a moment holding their gift, letting them capture every second of what they thought was my humiliation. Then I looked up with the brightest smile I could muster. You know what? You're absolutely right. I do need these. The laughter started to die down. Something in my tone had shifted. I need them because I'm about to wet myself. From laughing so hard at what I'm about to show you, I reached into my purse and pulled out my phone. Derek, honey, you forgot this at Thanksgiving. I held up screenshots of their group chat. I found the most interesting conversation. The color drained from Derek's face. Should I read it out loud for Jessica's live stream? I'm sure her 50,000 followers would love to hear about Operation Grandma. Sarah lunged for my phone, but I was ready. Oh no, sweetheart. I've already sent copies to everyone who matters, including your employers. I stood up, still holding the diapers, and walked to the center of the room where all their cameras could capture me clearly. You want to film something memorable? Let me give you content that will really go viral. I looked directly into Derek's camera. My name is Margaret Thompson. I'm 52 years old, and for months my children have been documenting what they thought was my mental decline to create humiliating content for social media. What they didn't know is that I've been documenting their cruelty. I pulled out a tablet and began playing footage from my hidden cameras. Here's Derek explaining how my Christmas humiliation would get millions of views. Here's Sarah planning multiple camera angles for maximum embarrassment. Here's Michael calculating how much money they could make from a crazy grandma compilation video. The room was dead silent except for the audio from my recordings. Jessica's live stream was still running, capturing everything. But here's the plot twist they weren't expecting, I continued, my voice growing stronger. 6 months ago, I inherited $2 million from my Aunt Eleanor. I was planning to pay off all your mortgages, fund my grandchildren's education, and secure your futures. David's mouth fell open. Sarah started crying. Michael looked like he was going to be sick. Was planning to, I emphasized. Past tense. Because yesterday I changed my will. Every penny is now going to the Alzheimer's Association and the Elder Abuse Prevention Foundation. Organizations that actually help people instead of exploiting them. I held up the diapers again. As for these, I think I'll donate them to a nursing home where they'll actually be appreciated by people whose families visit them with love instead of cameras. Derek's camera was still rolling, capturing his own devastation. Jessica's followers were going wild in the comments, but not in the way she had expected. Derek said, "This will be perfect for the compilation video. Crazy MIL Christmas Meltdown will get millions of views," I announced, reading directly from the screenshots. Sarah replied, "Shall we set up multiple camera angles?" Michael added, "Make sure to get her face when she opens it. The shock will be priceless." I smiled directly into every camera pointed at me. "Well, children, you got your viral moment, but I don't think it's going to play out quite like you planned." The aftermath was immediate and devastating. Derek dropped his camera, the expensive equipment crashing to the floor. Jessica ended her live stream abruptly, but it was too late. Thousands of viewers had witnessed everything, and screen recordings were already spreading across social media. Sarah collapsed into the armchair, sobbing uncontrollably. "Mom, we were just joking. We didn't mean... We never thought..." "You never thought I'd find out," I corrected calmly. "There's a difference." David, always the problem solver, tried to take control. "Mom, let's talk about this rationally. We can delete everything, make this right. You're upset, and you have every right to be, but changing your will, that's extreme." "Extreme?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "What's extreme is spending months planning to humiliate your mother for internet points. What's extreme is creating a group chat called Operation Grandma to coordinate my emotional destruction." Michael, my youngest, my sensitive boy, was crying silently. "Mom, I'm sorry. I got caught up in it." Derek made it seem like it was just harmless fun. "Harmless?" I showed him another screenshot. "You wrote, 'Make sure to get her face when she opens it. The shock will be priceless.' Does that sound harmless to you, Michael?" Robert finally spoke up, his voice shaky. "Maggie, maybe we should discuss this privately. The kids made a mistake, but disowning them, that's not you." I turned to my husband of 28 years, the man who had watched his children torment me for months without saying a word. "You're right, Robert. The old me would have swallowed this humiliation, made excuses for them, and pretended it was fine. But the old me died this morning when I opened those diapers." The room fell silent, except for Sarah's continued sobbing. Then something unexpected happened. Derek, who had been standing frozen since his camera fell, suddenly spoke. "Mrs. Thompson, Margaret, I need to tell you something." Everyone turned to look at him. His face was pale, and his hands were shaking. "The group chat, the planning, it was my idea. All of it." His voice cracked. "Sarah didn't want to do it at first. None of them did. I convinced them it would be funny, that you'd laugh about it later. I told them older people don't really understand social media anyway, so what was the harm?" Sarah looked up at him in shock. "Derek, don't..." "No, I have to," he continued, tears starting to flow. "I've been watching my own grandmother decline for 2 years. She has dementia, and instead of helping her, I've been avoiding visiting because it's too hard. When I met your family and saw how sharp and capable you were, I think I was angry. Angry that you were everything my grandmother used to be, and I was losing her." He sat down heavily on the couch. "So I turned you into a joke because it was easier than facing my own guilt. I made your children see you as a burden because that's how I was seeing my own grandmother. I'm not asking for forgiveness because what I did is unforgivable, but they followed my lead. The cruelty started with me." The confession hung in the air like a bomb. Sarah stared at her husband as if seeing him for the first time. "That doesn't excuse their choices," I said quietly. "They're adults. They chose to participate." "You're right," David said, his voice barely a whisper. "We did choose, and we chose wrong." "Mom, I can't even begin to explain how sorry I am." "When I think about what we put you through..." "We turned you into content," Sarah said through her tears. "Our own mother. We turned your pain into entertainment. How did we become people who could do that?" Michael stood up abruptly. "I need to show you something." He pulled out his phone and opened his social media. "I've been posting about you for months. My mom's senior moments. Dealing with menopausal mood swings. I got hundreds of likes. People sharing their own stories about their difficult mothers." He started deleting posts one by one. I became addicted to the attention. Every time you did something I could spin as crazy mom behavior, I got validation from strangers. I turned my own mother into a meme. The weight of their realization was crushing. These weren't just thoughtless jokes anymore. They were seeing the systematic nature of their cruelty, the way they had dehumanized me for their own benefit. The will stands, I said firmly, but I want you to understand something. This isn't about money. This is about respect. This is about remembering that I'm a person, not a character in your entertainment. But even as I spoke, I could see something changing in their faces. Real remorse was setting in. 6 months have passed since that Christmas morning, and my life has transformed in ways I never expected. The viral video of my confrontation, captured by Jessica's live stream and Derek's camera, spread across the internet like wildfire. But instead of becoming a laughingstock, I became a symbol. Margaret Moment started trending, with thousands of people sharing their own stories of family disrespect and elder abuse. I received messages from around the world, from daughters who recognized their own mothers in my story, from sons who realized they had been taking their parents for granted, and from countless older adults who felt seen and validated for the first time in years. The immediate aftermath was painful but necessary. Sarah filed for divorce from Derek within a month. She moved back home temporarily, and we spent long nights talking about how she had lost herself in her marriage, how she had allowed someone else's cruelty to become her own. I became someone I don't recognize, she told me one evening. I need to figure out who I am without his influence. Derek moved back to his home state to care for his grandmother, finally facing the guilt he had been avoiding. He sent me a letter of apology, not asking for forgiveness, but taking full responsibility for the pain he had caused. He's in therapy now, working through his issues with aging and loss. David threw himself into making amends. He started volunteering at a senior center, helping elderly residents with technology and social media. I want to understand what I almost became, he told me. I want to make sure I never treat anyone the way we treated you. He's also been seeing a counselor about his financial stress and why he thought exploiting his mother was an acceptable solution. Michael surprised me the most. He re-enrolled in school, but changed his major to social work with a focus on elder advocacy. I want to spend my life protecting people like you from people like I was, he said. He's been the most consistent in rebuilding our relationship, calling every day and visiting every weekend without expecting anything in return. Robert and I went to marriage counseling. 30 years of him avoiding conflict had enabled our children's behavior and left me feeling isolated in my own home. I thought keeping the peace was the same as being a good husband, he admitted during one session. I didn't realize that sometimes love means fighting for the person you love. We're rebuilding our partnership on a foundation of mutual respect and active support. As for the inheritance, I made one modification to my will. I established a foundation in my Aunt Eleanor's name that provides grants to families dealing with elder care challenges. My children don't know it yet, but they're all listed as potential beneficiaries. If they complete a year of volunteer work with elderly populations and write a genuine reflection on what they learned about aging, dignity, and respect, the money was never really the point. The point was showing them that actions have consequences, that people have value beyond their utility, and that cruelty, even when disguised as humor, leaves real scars. I've also become an unexpected advocate. I speak at conferences about digital elder abuse and the way social media can be weaponized against vulnerable populations. The phrase, "Don't turn your loved ones into content," has become my signature message. I've helped other families recognize and address similar patterns of exploitation. But perhaps the most important change is in how I see myself. For years, I had internalized their narrative that I was becoming irrelevant, burdensome, forgettable. That Christmas morning, I remembered that I am a person with value, wisdom, and dignity. I'm not a supporting character in someone else's story. I am the protagonist of my own life. My relationship with my children is different now. It's built on genuine respect rather than obligation. When they visit, it's because they want to see me, not because they need something. When we laugh together, it's with each other, not at each other. The dynamic has fundamentally shifted, and we're all better for it. To anyone reading this who recognizes themselves in my story, whether as the target of family cruelty or as someone who has participated in it, know that it's never too late to change the narrative. Respect is not something you earn by aging gracefully or staying quiet about mistreatment. Respect is something you deserve simply by being human. And to the families out there turning their loved ones into entertainment, remember that the person you're mocking today is the person you might become tomorrow. The kindness you show to the elderly in your life is the kindness you're teaching the next generation to show to you. What's your story? Have you experienced family dynamics like this? How do you maintain dignity and respect in your relationships? Share your thoughts below. Let's start a conversation about treating each other with the love and respect we all deserve. The comments section became a place of healing for thousands of people sharing similar experiences and supporting each other through family challenges.